If you've ever picked up an oracle deck and thought to yourself, how do I actually use this thing? Then this video is for you. I'm also going to show you the unexpected way that I use oracle cards to help inform my business. So last week, a colleague came to me and whispered,
Kara, I bought oracle cards, but I have no idea how to use them. What do I do?
And honestly, I remember being there too. I remember when I first got my oracle cards, I was probably like 16, maybe even younger, and thinking to myself, these are so cool, but what do you do and how do you use them? And when I started to dive into it, I was super awkward and thinking like, am I even doing this right? Or I would see professional tarot readers do a reading and be like, how do they do that? So today I'm going to teach you how to use oracle cards as a complete beginner, but I'm also going to show you how I use them as a spiritual entrepreneur. Oracle cards are one of the simplest, most effective tools that you can use in every area of your life, including your spiritual business. I'm Dr. Kara, and if you're new to my channel, welcome. I've built a 6-figure business while having a full-time job in ed tech, have a PhD in learning design, and am a trained mystic. And I help spiritual entrepreneurs turn their gifts into profitable online courses without burning out, shutting down, or abandoning your intuition. And yes, oracle cards are part of that toolkit. If you're feeling disconnected from your intuition, if you overthink every decision, and if you feel like you're constantly second-guessing yourself, especially when it comes to your business, oracle cards can help you reconnect with your inner guidance fast. They're simple, visual, grounding, and a very popular mystical tool for a reason. But most people don't know where to start, and that's why I'm going to show you where to start. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to use an oracle deck, how to use them without memorizing anything, and you'll learn how to use them as a mystical tool to help inform your decision-making process. Step 1, let's first define what oracle even means so you know what you're getting into. I'd like to start with definitions because at a mystical level, it's important to understand the collective energies and the linguistic programming that a language carries with a certain role or energy. In this case, an oracle. So the etymology that I'm starting with for this video is a message from a god expressed by divine inspiration through a priest or priestess, an answer to a human inquiry, usually respecting some future event of some kind. The role of an oracle is actually ancient. It goes back thousands of years, back to the oracles of Delphi or ancient Greece. Now, historically, this has been a group historically documented as being a group of women. These priestesses at Delphi were renowned for being able to prophesize or see the future. They were well-respected healers within their community and generally carried the role of being wisdom keepers for society. Their role was so well respected that many of their practices and the women themselves were shrouded in mystery and secrecy. But here's the thing. So when I use this term oracle, what that means to me is that it is a role in society where you are offering guidance and wisdom to someone or even yourself. So there might be an element of, let's say, prophecy, remembering the future, or divination, reading the energies of the universe to see what might be coming. But it's really important that you tie that data to some type of practical step or action that someone can take. So to me, an oracle is about giving helpful, high-frequency advice to someone in a way that they can actionably apply to their life. Now, here's another interesting thing. Many of these oracle decks will be literally advertised as oracle decks because the tarot is trademarked. So the tarot deck is a type of oracle cards that is quite ancient, and it goes back centuries even, but there's only one tarot, and it was specifically made by a very specific group of people. So if you ever go into a New Age store or a spirituality store, they're most likely going to sell oracle decks. Now, the reason why it's so popular is it's one of the most accessible ways to do divination, or to use the cards as a tool to get insight and advice from subtle realms or subtle entities or energies. So now that we know what an oracle is, and in general where this word came from, now let's look at the next step. Step 2, you're gonna have to buy yourself an oracle deck. So there are so many types of oracle cards to choose from. There are literally thousands and thousands of products that you can purchase. Now, you might be a little bit overwhelmed if you go into a store and see 20 or 30 or hundreds of oracle cards and you don't even know where to start. My general advice for you is to find a deck that really speaks to you. In other words, take a look at what you see on the shelf or online, and if it feels really beautiful to you, that's the deck you want to buy. The reason why this is so important is because ultimately you're going to use your cards as a tool. And the more you can connect with them and feel into them, well, the easier it's going to be to conduct divination, but also to just, well, feel really good about it. And that's actually a very mystical and important feeling, because beauty ultimately opens us up to connection, and it's a very high frequency state of being. So if you find a deck that you feel is just gorgeous and inspiring and beautiful, that's the type of energy you're going to want to work with. So take a look around and find a deck that you think is beautiful. Now, for me personally, I have dozens of decks, but there's about 4 or 5 that I will routinely use, but for different purposes. So now I want to show you the type of decks that I personally like to use. And the reason why I have several different kinds is because I like to use them for different situations and connect them to different entities, which we'll talk about later on in the video. But just note that these cards I have no paid affiliations with, so this is not product placement. I'm just showing you the cards that I like to use. So for example, I like the Angels and Ancestors Oracle cards by Kyle Gray, and I connect this deck to the Human Collective. I also really like the Forest of Enchantment Tarot by Linnea Weatherstone, and this deck I like to connect to Gaia. So think Mother Earth, Mother Tierra, essentially our planet. This is the deck I use for that because all of the cards essentially have, well, animals and nature in them, which I also find them really beautiful. I also like to use the Rider-Waite Tarot deck. This is a very specific deck that has a lot of history and energy behind it. I could spend dozens of videos talking about this particular deck, but I will spare you for now. But just know that this is that traditional tarot deck that you have probably seen either in the movies or in stores. But this is the Rider-Waite Tarot deck. And this I use very specifically when giving advice and paid sessions to people. So if people literally come to me for a paid session to get insight or advice on their life, I use this deck because I find that most situations of the human condition can be found in this deck, which is pretty cool. So here's another little tidbit is you can use almost anything as an oracle if you have the right connection and mindset in place. Now, another book that I like to use isn't actually formally an oracle deck or a set of oracle cards, but depending on the book or resource, if it's designed a certain way that is connected to high frequency energies and insights, you actually could use it as an oracle. So for example, this is one of my favorite books. It's called Quotes for Self-Empowerment by Inelia Benz. And this is actually a photography book. So she's taken photos of some of her work over the years as a professional photographer and just has given really nice, beautiful quotes to go with the images. But what I found is that you can actually use this type of book as an oracle. And I'll show you how to do that later on in the video. But just know that you don't have to be so constrained with oracle decks. You actually can apply the principles to other tools and resources. You just have to be really diligent about where the resource is coming from so you know that it's going to be supportive of your life. All right, another oracle that I like to use is called the I Ching. Now, this is pretty much the origin of all Chinese mysticism. I would dare to say most of Asia's mysticism has originated from the I Ching. Now, this is a very different type of oracle. It is a book, but traditionally the I Ching oracle or divination practice is used with yarrow sticks and coins, and you read and infer the information from casting the coins or casting the sticks and seeing what information comes up. It's a very specific methodology, and it is very different than your typical Western oracle deck. But the reason why I wanted to bring it up is because this is pretty much the foundation of most Chinese mysticism, including feng shui and, well, many other mythologies, as well as mystical practices used throughout the world. Even human design was informed by the I Ching. I really love this book, but I have to say, you really have to study it. Okay, it's not something that, at least if you want to get good results with, that you just willy-nilly like flip through the book and see what you get. This type of oracle is about connection with this collective, and it takes time to really learn and understand the I Ching at both a mechanical level, but even just the underpinning energies and the collectives that have worked with this body of knowledge for literally thousands of years. It's a really fascinating read, though. I do highly recommend you purchase a copy and read it, sit with it. It's actually taken me years and I still haven't mastered it, but I really, really do love this oracle. It's just amazing. So there's a lot of different options you have for oracles. And again, just go back to that fundamental principle of finding a card deck that you think is beautiful. And that will set you up for success. Step 3, once you have selected your oracle cards, now you're going to cleanse your cards. Now, this is a really important step. Even if you're buying a brand new deck straight out of the store, or it's a used deck that maybe you were gifted by someone else, it's really important that you mystically sage and cleanse your card deck. So this is actually really simple and practical. Just take a little bit of sage. Any sage will do. You can also use other types of herbs that are meant for cleansing as well, like cedar or Palo Santo, but I think white sage is probably the most common. So literally, light some sage. And I want you to take your card deck, your sage, and literally just bathe them in that smoke. And as you're doing this, give yourself that intent, or have that intention of, I am cleansing any low frequency, sticky energies from this card deck. And really the smoke does most of the work, but your intention is also really important. And so have that intent that you are cleansing the deck. So in my case, I'm literally going to say to myself and the cards, I am cleansing these cards of any low frequency or sticky energies. Any residual energies are sent back to their source. They are clean and clear and pristine. And then you'll just know when it's done. Like you'll just feel like, oh yeah, they're clean. This is good. Yeah, perfect. I've also found that depending on the deck, you might need to cleanse them more regularly. So for my Rider-Waite tarot deck, I highly, highly recommend that anytime you use this deck in particular, that you cleanse it before and after. There are some reasons behind this. The quick version is that the people who created these card decks were trained mystics. They knew what they were doing at an energetic level, and they weren't exactly the highest frequency people on the planet, so there's a lot of demonic stuff that can come in, and it's open to that. So you don't want your cards to get hijacked, and they can get hijacked. And by hijacked, I mean that it can give you wrong advice or bad advice to basically play tricks on you or literally cause you harm. And I found that the Rider-Waite tarot deck is more susceptible to that. Now, there are tricks that you can do to ensure that that doesn't happen. Like for me, for example, I keep my Rider-Waite tarot deck in velvet. This is a velvet cover case that I got for tarot cards. Actually, it was a gift. Thank you, Ashley. It's just something that was ordered off of Etsy. And I found that velvet does a really good job protecting energies. It's almost like a energetic cocoon that you can put over stuff. I think this is actually why velvet's used for jewelry and jewelry boxes, because well, gems are programmable. Anyway, I digress. So I literally will keep my cards in velvet because it helps just seal them and protect them from other energies. There's also a lot of versions of Rider-Waite tarot, and I found a version that has like these really beautiful angel symbols on them. It's kind of hard to see on the camera, but basically it's like there's a mandala of beautiful light, and then there's like just these really beautiful angelic symbols that are on the back of the card. And this is also acting as like an energetic barrier to prevent low frequencies from coming in. So I found that even the design on the back of the card of the tarot deck can really make an impact when it comes to potential hijacks. But with this deck, I literally cleanse them before I use them and after I use them every single time. Totally meticulous. I would not skip it once. It's really important to do that. Now, there are other decks where I don't find that I have to do that so frequently. So, for example, the Enchanted Forest deck. These are my Gaia cards. These are like really fluffy bunny, and I don't really have to cleanse them very often. But, you know, it's good to do every once in a while, and it's good to do and have mystical hygiene. So keep your tools clean and clear, and you can do that by just burning a little bit of sage. Super simple. All right, step 4. I want you to connect with your card. So this is the first time you're using an oracle deck. It's important that you get to know them. Now, remember, they're just a tool. On their own, they're not all-seeing or omnipotent. It's not that at all, and we'll talk more about that later on in the video. But the cards do have specific symbols and energies and frequencies in them, and it can be helpful to get to know your tool. So for example, if you're a sports athlete and let's say you play soccer or football, it's important that when you first buy a ball that you practice with it, right? That you touch it, you get to know it, you see how it feels, you see how it bounces off your foot when you kick it. It's the same thing. With tarot or oracle cards, you need to get to know your cards. And you can do that by literally just handling them, like in the way that I'm doing. See how they feel in your hands. How big are they in your hands? Because some decks will have different shapes and sizes. But then also, you know, spend time going through the pictures and just like getting to know them, right? Now, I'm not saying you have to memorize them. That's not what I'm saying at all. But just like see what's there. And, you know, as you go through this process, you can enjoy it. Like admire the art from these artists and the creator and all this time and thought they put into making these cards. They're just some really, really beautiful, beautiful imagery here. And, you know, take the time to get to know them. Next, what I want you to do is to get to know your oracle cards through the book, okay? Now, here's the thing. You do not have to memorize everything in the guidebook. Generally, most guidebooks will have some advice at the beginning about how to use the oracle deck. Some might even have card spreads in them. Some will have places where you can take notes. But most of these guidebooks are generally going to tell you what the meaning of a card is. Now, if you are interested, you can just go ahead and read through every single one, but frankly, I don't think it's necessary. In fact, my teacher, when she was teaching me how to do tarot for the first time, she told me to read the guidebook once and then throw it in the trash. Again, I could spend a whole video about why that's the case, and I think it's very unique to the tarot, but that is a very specific methodology that has a lot of nuance to it. But for most oracle decks, what I do is I do read the guidebook. So for my Gaia deck, as well as my Human Collective deck, Angels and Ancestors, or the Enchanted Forest, respectively, right? I will draw cards, and then I will see what pops, which will go into the next step. And then I read what's in the book to see if there's any additional meaning that comes from that. Which leads me to the next step. How to actually use your oracle deck. Now remember, from the beginning, an oracle is someone who gives insight and advice about your life path. So there's a couple of things to keep in mind here. First is, if you are going to use an oracle deck, it's important to have some kind of question to ask. Now, there's a whole craft in asking the right question and wording the right question that, well, just takes a lot of time and practice. But the question itself is really, really important. And in order to use the cards accurately, you're you're going to need to ask a question. Now, there are generally two different types of questions that I think a beginner should start out with. One is you can ask a yes/no question, or you can ask a question about general insights or advice about a certain situation. I think for most people, general insights is probably what folks are looking for, but you actually can also use oracle cards to help you answer yes/no questions. In fact, the cards that I use to answer simple yes/no questions are simple playing cards. Yes, these are the playing cards that are used in Las Vegas, playing with your kids, the literal playing cards that everyone is aware of and uses. Those I like to use for answering yes/no questions. However, for oracle cards like these, I generally find that they're more useful for questions where you're looking for broad insight or specific advice. So there's a lot of different questions you can ask. Obviously, it depends on your situation and what you're looking for advice on. But when I use oracle cards, it's generally around like some kind of life advice or insight on a very specific situation. So let's say it's the new year or it's my birthday. I might ask a question like, give me insight on what my year ahead is going to be like. And I might pull a card and get a very, specific energy or answer as a result. But if you're using it for business, for example, you can also ask a very specific question to a specific situation and get clarity about that situation. So for example, one question that I would like to ask if I'm working with people is, please show me the underlying energies behind the relationship I have with this person. That could be one card. And then I'll see information that comes from that card. And then I might ask a follow-up question that says, okay, now give me advice and insight about how I can work with this person in a high frequency positive way. And then I'll pull a card and get more insight and advice. So it's really dynamic and it's very dependent upon what you're looking for and what you're seeking advice on. But just know that you need to come in with a question. I highly recommend that if you're new to this, you write out your question first in a notebook and that you document what cards you got and reflect on the information that you see. Once you start to do this more frequently and you get better and better with practice, then you won't need to. But in general, I think it's a really good idea to write your questions down. In fact, whenever I prepare for a paid session with a client, I always write my question down and I validate that question with the client. I can't emphasize enough how important the question is, because how you word it and in what way you ask it will determine the outcome of the result. So make sure it's very clear and that you're asking it in a way that will bring in clarity and direction for you or for your client. Now, the next step is to whom you are asking the question. Now, most people, I would say, especially beginners when they're working with oracle cards, get this wrong. It is a big, common mystical mistake. But the oracle cards on their own are useless. It's just ink on paper. There's no magic there. Where the magic comes in is from you. Now, what you do is you ask for guidance from a specific person, entity, or energy, and you allow that guidance to come through and be translated through the cards. In other words, the cards by themselves don't give you any insight. What you're doing is you are asking for advice to someone else about the situation. Now, this process can get really tricky and really slippery very fast. So first of all, I recommend that you only ask questions to entities that are high frequency and have your or your client's best intention at heart, okay? So as I mentioned earlier, the deck, for example, the Kyle Gray deck, Angels and Ancestors Oracle book, or Oracle cards, I connect these cards to the human collective. So to me, what the human collective means is that all of the humans around the entire universe, we are all connected and are essentially operating as one being, one frequency. And that each of us is just an expression of that collective orchestration. And here's the thing, the human collective is generally much wiser than one individual person, because the human collective literally has all of the experiences, wisdoms, understandings of all humans throughout time and space forever. So generally, the human collective is probably going to know more about stuff than you as a small individual. Now, a note, I'm not giving my power away to the human collective or other energies or entities. This is very important. You are asking for advice from someone who is, let's say, more of an expert. So think of it this way. If your car is broken down and you need it fixed, you would probably take it to a mechanic and ask your car mechanic what needs fixing. Right? Now, you wouldn't necessarily give away your power to the mechanic and say, oh my gosh, you know everything about everything. What should I do about my relationship? What should I do about my finances? It's like, no, the mechanic just knows about cars, right? So too is true with the energies and entities that you connect to through your cards. So, for example, if I'm dealing with life situations that deal with people, like business, then I like to ask the human collective, because the human collective is made up of people. So generally it knows the dynamics of people really, really well. On the flip side, if I am looking for answers that, let's say, have to do with nature, I'm going to ask Gaia. Now, I will say Gaia, or the sentient being that is our planet Earth, I say she, it's not actually a woman, but I just say she because it's easier. So Gaia, is generally really, really good at working with the human collective because humans and nature go hand in hand. But she also does have her own energy, frequency, and support that is just different than the human collective. I mean, the best way to translate it for me is think of Gaia as our mother and we're her babies, right? It feels more like that kind of relationship than, let's say, the human collective, which is more like asking myself, but my higher self or larger self that sees more and isn't encumbered by dogma, programs, fears, limitations, but sees the larger picture. That's how I would distinguish the human collective. But with Gaia, it's like, Gaia, it's like asking our mother or a father for advice, right? Someone you know who loves and trusts you, and you love them and trust them. But also, Gaia has her own energies and frequencies too, which are very supportive, inspiring, and beautiful. So again, just go with what resonates. But this is another way that I connect Gaia to my specific card deck, the Enchanted Forest. Now, when I'm working with clients, and this is something that you can do for yourself as well if you feel more comfortable, is if I'm working with clients, I will use my Rider-Waite tarot deck and I will ask the higher self of the client for advice. This is a very specific distinction from, let's say, the human collective or Gaia, because when giving advice to a client that they may or may not take very seriously, I want to make sure that the insights that I'm receiving are best designed for that person. Because here's the thing, my job as an oracle is not to tell you what to do with your life. Like if someone comes to me for a tarot session and is like, what do I do about my marriage? First, it's really important that I don't filter or color the situation with my own programs and stuff around it, and that I ask that person's higher self about what they need to see or what they need to do in regards to their relationship. Because my job isn't to tell people what to do with their lives. And frankly, how should I know? I don't know what's best for people. Like, I don't know what brought you here on Earth or what mission you came in with or what you're hoping to experience. Only you know that. And maybe more accurately, your higher self knows that. So what I do when I'm working with, for example, the tarot, is I will ask the person's higher self and connect with that person's higher self for guidance. So again, with any of these questions, before you ask your question, you need to connect with that entity that you are going to be asking for advice on. And this gets to the next step. Before you start a session, it's really important that you truth who you're connecting to and actually make sure that that entity you're connecting to is the entity they say that they are. So I've talked about this in other videos in the past, but I can't emphasize enough how important it is. When you are about to do a session either with yourself or with others using our oracle cards, it's really important that you check who you're connecting with and make sure that they are who they say they are. So I'll show you how to do this. So first off, I use the truthing exercise, which I learned from the Truth and Lies class. You can check it out in the link below. Basically, what you do is you determine yes, no, like what is a yes, what is a no, using your physical body. Now, go into the class and fully take it so you get the whole understanding of this tool, but I'll give you a very quick glimpse about what this tool looks like in action. So for me, what I first do is I calibrate what is a yes and what is a no. So for example, I take a deep breath, and then I ask my body, show me a very clear yes. And what I feel or experience when I get a yes is that when I breathe in and breathe out, it's almost like it flows very smoothly and cleanly, like it's easy, and it's just like a particular feeling that I have trouble translating. Now, then I ask my body, okay, show me a very clear no. And as I breathe out, I feel like a tightness in my solar plexus, I guess. And I'm still breathing, so it's not the breath, but as I breathe out, I feel like a tightness that's kind of like dissonant. And so to me, that is a language that I use for myself through my body of like, what is a yes and what is a no? And then you use this as a calibration system to test things if they're truthful or not. Now, your particular guidance system is probably going to be very different to mine. I think in my experience, everyone has their own version of what a truthing yes and a no feels like or looks like. For example, I have a friend who, when she does this, she will feel a lightness in her head and see a really bright color for a yes. And then for a no, she will feel a heaviness near her feet and see a different color. So it just goes to show that what you calibrate as yes, no for you is perfectly fine. Just so long as it's a very clear what is a yes and what is a no to you, okay? So most important tool whenever doing mystical work is the truthing exercise, because that becomes your calibration system for checking who you're talking to and whether or not they say who they say they are. So for example, I've got my Angels and Ancestors card deck. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to ask my body, show me a very clear yes. Okay, got it. It like flows easily. It's smooth energy that comes out of my solar plexus. I say, please show me a very clear no. And as I breathe out, I feel that tightness in my solar plexus. So it's very, very clear. And so now I am going to connect to the human collective. So you might be wondering or asking, well, how the heck do you do that, Kara? So if this is your first time doing this, honestly, I would just play pretend. Use your imagination. Make believe for just a moment that you can actually do this, okay? And I'll share what my process is, which may be different to yours, but just know that, well, your belief and your knowing is powerful. All right, so for me, I'm going to connect to the human collective. So first, what I do is I imagine in my mind's eye or in my imagination, what is the human collective? So if you're a visual person, you might see colors or images or like a movie playing in your head. For me, when I think of the human collective, I think of all of the humans throughout time and space. So all of the humans on Earth from millions of years ago to millions of years in the future. And I think of all the humans throughout time and space across the universe, and I see all of them. It's almost like if you zoom out like a movie camera, like you're zooming out and you see across the whole universe, and I see every single human represented as a sparkle of light. And I just see like a sea of lights, and it's like infinite and beautiful. So that's one way that I do that. Now, another way that I connect to the human collective is I have this feeling. It's really hard to translate, but basically I just allow myself feeling into that larger self that is me, the human collective. And it literally just feels like me everywhere, or in a larger, expansive space. So it's not just me, Kara, sitting on this chair in my house, but it's that me that I feel like it's larger than my body, and it expands and goes all the way out throughout time and space in a way that I can't really describe, but it feels so expansive and really good. It feels really, really good. If at any point you feel fear or anger or some kind of low frequency emotion, I want you to stop and do the fear processing exercise, okay? And also, in my experience, the human collective is extremely high frequency. So that's actually a signal. If I were expanding and expressing into the human collective and then felt fear or blame or some other nasty feeling, then that's a data point or a red flag that what I'm connecting to is not the human collective. Because the human collective doesn't express that way. in its true form, which is beautiful and supportive and nurturing and inspirational and curious and all of these things. So that's another way you can test if what you're doing is, well, connecting to that entity or not. But we're going to test that, okay? So I imagine myself connecting to the human collective, and imagine it whatever way that works for you. There's no wrong ways to go about it. Feel into it. And then truth it. So I literally do this in every session that I do. Silently, most of the time. I ask myself, is this entity that I'm connecting with right now, as expressed as the human collective, is this entity actually the human collective? Ooh, I got no. All right then. So we have to go back to the drawing board. Let's go back. Okay. So I imagine myself connecting to the human collective. And then when that feeling is really clear and you feel that distinction, that difference of connection, now I'm going to ask, is this connection that I'm feeling right now, is this connection to the human collective? I got a yes. Okay, so this is again where questions are very important. How you word them and how you state them matter. And we'll do it one more time, just so we're certain 100% sure. So I feel myself expanding into the human collective, and I ask, is this link that I've established right now a direct connection to the human collective? Yes, no. Yes. Ooh, that's a much firmer yes than before. Okay, we got it. So now that I have that link, I literally have a trajectory locked, is the best way I can describe it. It's like I know what that feeling is. I've truthed it. That link is what I'm going to ask guidance from, okay? So I want you to do the same when you're doing your oracle cards, whether it's for yourself or for others. You should always truth who you're connecting to and make sure you're 100% certain, okay? 100% certain, crystal clear. And if you're not sure what 100% certainty feels like, then practice. Do the exercises in the Truth and Lies class. All right. Next, we have the actual oracle step. All right, so I have my link, I have my question, and now I'm going to ask my question and then show you how to read the information, okay? All right. So I am going to ask the human collective. I'm asking for guidance and insight about how to have an effective, profitable YouTube channel. So I'm asking the human collective, please show me any insights, guidance, and advice on how to make my YouTube channel effective and profitable. Well, effective for my audience and profitable for me. Ooh, now asking that question, I realize that's kind of two different questions. Okay, this is why I wanted to do this in real time so that you can see how important it is to ask a really clear question. So profitable for me feels different than what's useful and effective for my students and my audience. So let's focus on one thing. What's going to be most effective for my audience, okay? That's what I'm more interested in. All right, so let's get really clear on the question. For insight and guidance on how to make my YouTube channel as effective as possible for my audience. All right, so I have my question, and now what I'm going to do, again, just so it's super clear to myself, is I'm going to hone back into that link to the human collective. Shink. I just feel it, and you'll feel it too, and you'll know it when you feel it. And you can truth it if you need to. So I'm asking the human collective to please give me insight and advice on how to make my YouTube channel more effective and useful for my audience. Yes, that resonates. I like that question. I've got the link to the collective. And now gets to the part where you draw the card. So this is where your intuition comes in. You will draw the card when it feels like it's the card. I know that sounds arbitrary, but it is. For some, you might have a card like, whoop, pop out. You could do that. Or you might just be like, ooh, I have to stop all of a sudden. Maybe that's it. Sometimes I'll do a little bit of both, where I will feel a card stop, and then I'll truth it again, and then be like, is this the card? Is this the answer from the human collective? Yes, no. If I get a yes, I pull it. If I don't, I keep shuffling. All right. So inwardly, I'm going to ask that same question. Got my link to the human collective established. And now I'm waiting for the card for the human collective to use my body and the cards as a system, a language system, to show me the advice they want to share. Okay, I got that. There are 2 cards. Yes, no. Are there 2 cards? Yes. Or are there 1 card? Oh, nope, only 1 card. So there's only 1 card for this answer. Okay. And are these the cards? Yes, no. Yes. Okay, these are the cards. I keep saying cards. Is there more than 1 card? No, just the 1. Okay, so just 1 card. Again, I truthed it. You know, just do it again and again until you're really clear. So the card that I got, Shaman. All right, now this is the next step, how to read the card. So if you're going to read your card, there's a couple of things I want you to do. First, before you go straight to the guidebook, I want you to look at the imagery of the card and see what pops. So what popped for me immediately, this is the shaman card. What popped for me was the word shaman, literally. And to me, the word shaman has a very specific energy and connotation to it. And when I look at the card, what I see is the owl really pop. And an owl to me represents a couple of things. One, it represents wisdom and essentially being like an elder, but really deep wisdom. And the owl also has a personal connotation to me because it reminds me of my teacher. And when I look at the shaman, it's like, let's reframe it back to the question. So what will ultimately be most effective and help my audience with YouTube? Well, there's a mystical element to it. A shaman is a mystic, and also wisdom. And for me, I translate that to mean that for my YouTube channel, sharing wisdoms and these mystical knowings is probably going to be the most helpful for my audience. So that's the first thing I want you to do. I want you to look at the card and see what pops for you, and then just run with it. You know, just go with like the first feeling or image or moment of intuition that you see and be like, oh, okay, what really pops is the color or the feather or the fact that it's a Native American or whatever, right? It's a very personal thing, very personal, because you as the oracle, your language is what matters, right? Like, in other words, these higher forces like the human collective or Gaia, they're trying to speak to you using your personal language, and how you translate it is going to be really important. So if you go with that first bit of intuition of like what comes up for you, that's the message. Another example might be, let's say someone else got this card and the owl to them means health and medicine. You know, that would be the important data, right? It's not that another person's symbol is wrong or right. It's what matters to the person in question. So if you're asking a question for yourself, what comes up for you? And then put it in that context of the question. Next, we're actually going to read what's in the guidebook. All right. So we've got the shaman. Let's see where it is. All right, so generally I like to go at the beginning of the table of contents to find it, because some of these have just like hundreds of cards, so it can get very long very quickly. So page 62. All right, so now I'm going to read out what's in the guidebook. And just like before, we're going to truth what resonates and what doesn't for my, in this case, particular question. But you would do this for your question. So the shaman, trust in higher forces. Message, trust in your angels, guides, and ancestors. If you've given your power away, claim it back. Ooh, interesting. So in respect to like my YouTube channel, it might be good for me to look at where I have given my power away. What immediately comes up is how I have to do certain things a certain way because of the algorithm. That could be an example of giving my power away. So that's what immediately came up when I read that. Okay, so here's the about. On the inner planes, all of the shamans of times gone by are helping the human race to understand the complexities of life and the needs of Mother Earth. So I'm already gonna pause there. So what comes up for me is that's basically like why I started this channel to begin with. Like it was all about mysticism and helping the human collective or just normal people like learn about mysticism and how that connects to Gaia and our place on Earth and all of that. So that already like hit a chord for me because that's what initially inspired me to start the channel. Okay. Many are working as spiritual guides to light workers and light warriors. Already interesting because I often refer to my audience as light workers. So I think I'm, yes, one of those spiritual guides doing that. Okay. The shaman card brings the energy of your shaman guides to you. Shamans believed that when there was illness or disease, it was because a person's power had been left behind somewhere or a negative pattern had installed itself in them. In trance, they would travel to the underworld to recall this power and remove the demon. If this card comes to you, it's because you need to do some release work with lower energies or with your lack of trust in the spiritual energies that are guiding you. The shaman will aid you in your quest. Wow. Okay, so again, let's go back to the context of the question. What is the advice and insight and guidance from the human collective to make my YouTube channel more effective and helpful for my audience? Well, how I translate this, or what pops for me, is that I need to be really diligent in dropping any low frequency stuff that I might have running, and that I need to process any resistances or fears that might come up when it comes to delivering my content. Because at the end of the day, I mean, you guys will pick up on that, and if I'm delivering stuff that's, not supportive or not high frequency, that's not good for you. How is that going to be helpful? It's not. So that is what pops for me in this message. Okay, now let's read the extended message. There are spiritual allies working in your favor, and their miracles will unfold much more easily when you move into a state of trust. So call back your power and stop allowing external forces to divert you from the miracles you deserve. Hand over all of your concerns to your spiritual allies. When you do so, you allow them to send you intuitive guidance and messages that will allow you to correct the situation and come out on top. The shaman card also shows that you have shamanic potential to move between the realms and connect with your guides in an extremely personal way. Well, yes, that is true. Okay, so what does that mean to me? So I have literally trained as a shaman. There is that. And my takeaway from this, especially in regards to the question of what would be more effective and helpful for my audience, for my YouTube channel, it's essentially for me to allow myself to do that mystical work around the channel. So like, for example, trust my intuition about maybe what I talk about. Don't give my power away to the algorithm or YouTube gurus about what I should or shouldn't do. It's more like trusting my guides and guidance on what to deliver, because that's like the frequency that's going to come through, and that's probably what's going to be more effective and helpful for my audience. Because if you're still watching this, chances are you're probably interested in this kind of stuff. So if I allow myself to, allow that in and trust it more, then that is probably going to be much more effective and helpful. So I read it as, trust in higher forces, as it says right there. All right, so to summarize, when you are literally drawing the card itself and interpreting the information, you don't have to memorize things in order to get guidance, right? Your intuition and your connection is the tool. So look at what pops in the card, and if there's any information or data that comes through, like acknowledge that. Allow it to take hold or use it as data to inform the answer to your question. But you can also use the guidebook as another mechanism to get additional information or data about your question. And again, you should always truth it, because I have found that some cards or the meanings behind certain cards for me don't always resonate, or it might not be applicable in the context of the question for what's written in the book. So you should always truth it and go with your inner trust and your inner knowing. That's going to be far more important at the end of the day than what's written in the book. But if you use both, this is an excellent way that you can start to read oracle cards, even if you're a beginner, and get some really cool and accurate results. Now, before we end the video, I just want to quickly show you how I used this book to inform my business recently. So for the past couple of weeks, I've been feeling kind of confused and discombobulated about my business. Like, do I create more content? Do I start a new product? Do I double down on what I'm doing? Am I even doing the right things? Like, long story short, I was kind of stressing and spinning on what to do. And I basically used this book as an oracle and asked Gaia, because I've connected this oracle to Gaia, for insights and advice about what to do for my business at like a big picture level. And the answer I got was really amazing, and it really helped transform what I was going through. The specific result that I got was this, which reads, "You are not stuck and life is not solid." So you can literally use these tools to inform your business, inform your life in whatever way that you need to at the moment. And it's a very powerful tool, very, very powerful. And it's a nice way to get that extra guidance and to also use your intuition to inform you and your life in a high frequency empowered way. So if this video helped you feel more confident in oracle cards, please let me know in the comments. I'm actually wondering if I should create more videos related to divination and how to use oracle or tarot cards. I could teach a whole class about how to do this work in more detail if you're interested, but you know, I want to make sure that the content I'm offering is effective and helpful for you. So if you would like more of this, then let me know in the comments, and thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.